Hello, and welcome to the 191st meeting of the AAAS, the American Association for the Advancement of Science. I'm Joe Francisco, Chair of the AAAS Board of Directors, and it's my great pleasure to see you all here in historic Boston. Welcome. I'd like to acknowledge that the land on which we are convening is the traditional territory of the Massachusetts, Pawtucket, and their neighbors, the Wampanoag and Nipmuc peoples, who have stewarded this land for hundreds of generations. Before we begin the program, I would like to acknowledge the members of the American Junior Academy of Sciences, AAAS. It is the only national honor society recognizing America's high school students of outstanding scientific research. The winners of statewide competitions are nominated to represent their states at the National AAAS Convention, which is held in conjunction with our annual meeting. I hope that you will take time to meet and encourage these young scholars. At this time, I'd like to ask the AAAS students to stand and be recognized. What an awesome group. AAAS is committed to providing a safe and productive meeting environment that fosters open dialogue and the exchange of scientific ideas, promote equal opportunities and treatment for all participants, and is free of harassment and discrimination. Simply put, harassment of any kind has no place at this or any scientific gathering, and we will not tolerate it. By registering for this meeting, you agreed to abide by AAAS Meeting Code of Conduct, and it is available at meetings.AAAS.org/policies. Further, while we encourage vigorous dialogue, debate, and even disagreement, our code of conduct requires a safe and inclusive environment for all attendees, speakers, staff, and participants. We have endeavored to provide safe spaces for controversial discussions to unfold, particularly in the expo. However, any disruption to meeting programming will be handled in accordance with the meeting code of conduct. So, let's join together as a community and commit to no one being made to feel left out of place, no one feeling unwelcome or harassed at this meeting for who they are, where they come from, and what they believe. I want to pause a moment to say how wonderful it is to see so many new and familiar faces in the audience. Being together over the next several days is a unique and unparalleled opportunity. We hope that each of you makes the most of your time to reconnect with existing friends and colleagues, make connections with new ones, and discover the promise of interdisciplinary collaboration for advancing the scientific endeavor and our collective humanity. We're gathering Thanks to the support of all of you, along with a coalition of wonderful sponsors and partners, I'd like to take a moment to recognize some of them from the podium tonight. The 2025 Annual Meeting host university, Northeastern University, who we will hear from in just a moment. Arizona State University, George Washington University, the Annenberg Public Policy Center of the University of Pennsylvania, Morgan State University, the Georgia Tech School of Public Policy, Florida International University, Physicians Formula, Tufts University, International Human Frontier Science Program Organization, Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine, the Tulane University School of Science and Engineering, AIP, and UL Research Institutes. Our deepest thanks to these organizations for their generous support of this year's annual meeting. As I noted, we are incredibly fortunate to have partnered with Northeastern University, the host university of the 2025 AAAS Annual Meeting. We're truly appreciative for the support provided by President Joseph Anun, Provost David Magdigan, Senior Vice Provost Srinivasa Tadigadapa, and the entire Northeastern University. It is now my pleasure to introduce Provost and Executive Vice President for the Academic Affairs, David Madigan. Dr. Madigan has been a long leading researcher at the intersection of big data and healthcare innovation. He also brings a strong global perspective to his career. A native of Ireland, Madigan has led large-scale global collaborations involving academic and pharmaceutical company researchers and government regulators in the US and Europe. Beyond the halls of academia, he has experience as an entrepreneur, innovation leader, researcher, and consultant both in the US and Ireland. Prior to Northeastern, he served in leadership roles at Columbia, Rutgers, and University of Washington. He earned his bachelor's degree and PhD from Trinity College, Dublin. Please join me in welcome to AAAS Dr. David Madigan.
Thank you very much. Hello, very happy to be here. Actually, I'm a proud AAAS fellow. Thank you. So I'm David Madigan. I'm the Provost, as was mentioned, and Senior Vice President for Academic Affairs at Northeastern University. I'd like to thank the AAAS and Dr. Willie E, who we'll hear from next, for having me. We're also very proud to be the host sponsor for this year's meeting. And I'm just going to take a couple of minutes, I'll be very brief, to tell you a little bit about Northeastern University. There's a lot of resonance between the meeting theme, Science Shaping the Future, and Northeastern's vision for interdisciplinary scientific advancement. So at Northeastern, we very much understand that today's most pressing challenges in areas like health, sustainability, and security, which are kind of three primary foci, they require collaborative, cross-disciplinary solutions. Begin with a problem in the world and work backwards to figure out how, working across the disciplines, we can move needles and solve problems. That exemplifies our approach to research at Northeastern. Let me share just a few quick examples. Our Institute for Nanosystems Innovation integrates technologies from quantum engineering, all the way from quantum engineering to artificial intelligence, enabling the development of advanced technologies across multiple fields and areas of application. The Burns Center for Social Change connects political science, technology and policy to enhance democratic processes and governance structures. And it is actually the largest trainer in the area of AI in the public sector across the United States. Our Institute for the Wireless Internet of Things integrates wireless technologies, sensors, and AI across engineering, policy, entrepreneurship, and data analytics. Our Institute for Experiential Robotics explores human-robot interaction through the lenses of psychology, engineering, and ethics. Our Center for Drug Discovery brings together chemists, pharmacologists, and clinicians to develop innovative treatments to address, in particular, substance abuse disorders. I could go on, but I hope you're getting a flavor of the kinds of things that animate our research enterprise. None of this work would be possible at Northeastern without our global university system. So many of you probably think that Northeastern is a university, half a mile down the road here. And indeed, that is the home, the home campus for Northeastern, 125 years old. But we actually have a network of 13 campuses across 3 countries. And just for fun, let me go through them. So we have a campus in Arlington, Virginia, Miami, Florida, San Jose in California, Oakland, California, Seattle, Vancouver, Toronto, Portland, Maine, where we have a very significant campus focused on economic development, and soon New York, in addition to Boston. So we have a philosophy of deep engagement across our network to partner with local organizations, companies, entities in each of those campuses, and they're all unique. They're not carbon copies of each other. So for example, in Charlotte, North Carolina, we're particularly focusing on, amongst other things, an accelerated nursing program to address a huge nursing shortage in that part of the country. It's nationwide, but particularly acute in North Carolina. Integral to what we do and is our kind of laser focus on experiential learning. So many of you are probably aware that Northeastern students all do co-ops. So a co-op is basically a 6-month internship. Co-op has been active at Northeastern for 115 years. We have about 4,000 employer partners, and essentially all of our students do 2 or in some cases 3 6-month co-ops as part of their education. And I bet we have some of our co-ops are working in your organizations right now because they are all over the country. So in summary, I think that I sincerely believe that Northeastern's model represents the future of scientific education and research. Experiential learning is a powerful tool to advance science. I look forward to hearing the fantastic sessions over the next few days that are going to happen here. And Northeastern has a booth, I think it's just over there. And I encourage all of you to come and visit our booth and learn a little more about Northeastern in the coming days. Thank you very much. I'm honored to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, thank you, Dr. Madigan. And our thanks to the entire Northeastern community for their partnership and support of this year's AAAS Annual Meeting. We look forward to seeing Northeastern's work featured across this meeting. Members of the AAAS community, the unprecedented nature of the last few weeks have left many of us in the science and engineering community uncertain, anxious, and fearful. Being together as we are now is one of the greatest antidotes to those feelings. But togetherness is not enough. Now, I'd like to read a statement that the Board of Directors of the AAAS drafted and approved at its meeting just a few hours ago. And that statement states, "Science and engineering are integral all our lives. From medicines that treat and cure diseases to artificial intelligence tools that inform our decisions every day. The shifting landscapes of the United States has caused confusion, anger, uncertainty, and anxiety among members of our community. These feelings are valid. These feelings are valid. Decisions made by all three branches of the U.S. government in the weeks ahead will affect our enterprise for years to come. And AAAS is embracing our legacy and values to focus on what really matters. And what really matters is ensuring the long-term strength of the scientific ecosystem. Staying true to our vision ensures that we and the next generation of exceptional scientists and engineers will advance our science to serve society. Now, to tell us more about how AAAS is responding in this moment and what you can do to help, please welcome the 19th Chief Executive Officer of AAAS and Executive Publisher of Science Family of Journals, Dr. Sudhit Parikh, for some opening remarks. Sudhit.
Thank you, Joe. You know, the world is changing so fast that I tried to write something and put it on this teleprompter, but it's changing too fast. Nothing would be up to date. Nothing could tell you what we're facing. And so I thought I would just talk to you. Talk about the world as we see it, what we think is possible, what we think is coming, and how we keep our commitment. We keep our commitment to this country, to the world, and to the students right over there. How do we do that? Look, we're gathered in a moment of turmoil. It's turmoil. And I don't want to sugarcoat that. And we have things that we have to adhere to. One of those is that science and engineering and medicine are searches for truth. Searches for truth and facts, objectivity. And we live in a time when that seems under threat. It seems under threat. And we have to be able to say that. We have to be able to say that. We have to be able to say it succinctly and clearly when it matters. We have to be able to say, on a day that we're gathered here at the AAAS, that some of the people leading the scientific endeavor are the wrong people. So let me just say this clearly. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is not the right person to lead the Department of Health and Human Services. He's not the right person. He's not the right person because solving disease, curing disease, addressing health requires objectivity, requires a search for truth, requires science. But here's the thing, health is so important. We're going to figure out ways as a scientific community to advance health no matter who is in those leadership positions. No matter who. Let me also say clearly that there are some really wonderful people who are going to be in this administration. Dario Gil is the nominee for Undersecretary of Energy. Dr. Dario Gil is an extraordinary engineer, scientist, and leader. We're going to work with him. We're going to find those people because we have to. This is a time This is a time when we know that the legacy that we have inherited, that legacy that comes from 176 years of this organization and 500 years of enlightenment, is something you don't throw away. It's something that you cherish. It's something that you build upon. It's something that you bequeath to the next generation. And so the work of this organization is to ensure that that enterprise, this ecosystem, this thing that we are all a part of, whether we are scientists, whether we are engineers, whether we are technicians in a laboratory, whether we are working in an animal facility, whether we are looking at the cosmos, that this thing that we're all a part of isn't lost, because it's fragile. It's fragile and it's powerful. It changes the way we live. And so we recommit ourselves to that. And you do that in a way that has focus and strategy. You can't just scream into the wind. You can't just hope that by yelling or worrying that you can change things. You do it by being inspired by that, by being animated by that, by getting passion from it, but then channeling that into strategy and focus, into understanding what's important in the coming weeks and months. We are living in a time, this next month is probably one of the most important months in the history of science and technology in this country. And I say that without hyperbole. I'm not one to tend toward hyperbole. I say it because there are pieces of legislation, there are things in front of Congress that are going to matter, and they're going to matter, ironically, by Pi Day, March 14th. March 14th is the day that one piece of legislation ends and another will have to begin. And I'm not going to go into the details of that because that's not fun for a kickoff to a meeting. But what I'll tell you is there is nothing more important than focusing on what happens in policy, what happens in the leadership of this country in the next 4 weeks. And so we're going to be focused on that. And we won't be distracted. We won't be distracted as an organization. And the work is sometimes high profile. I had the chance to speak to the House Science Committee last week, testifying before them with my good friend Walt Copan, who's here somewhere. I don't have my glasses on, so I can't see him. There's Walt. You know, Walt was invited by the majority. I was invited by the minority. We said the same thing. We said the same thing. Because this community is united when it comes to understanding what it takes for the United States scientific enterprise to continue to be a leader in the world and continue to contribute to society. Now, when we do that, when we speak with one voice, when we take the power not of our energy to destroy or dismantle, but the energy to build, we can do great things. Now, I am ever an optimist, even in a time of turmoil. In the next few weeks, we are going to be so committed. We're going to be working so hard together with our partners, so many of you are in this room, the leaders of other scientific societies. So many of you are here. I'm so proud to have you in this room. You're our partners. I won't name the disciplines because I can't name them all. You're all here. Our partners at the universities, our partners with patient organizations, our partners in industry. We recognize what it takes. Now look, sometimes it's going to be quiet, sometimes it's going to be loud. And they're going to take all kinds of points of view to do this. And some of us are going to go and make some noise, and that's good. Some of us are going to try and do the work of lobbying, and do the work of advocacy, and do the work of talking on behalf of the community. All those things are valid. All those things are powerful. We've got to stay together as a community because it's going to get rough. It's going to get rough. Now, if the things that I'm hearing right now about what's coming today and tomorrow are true, it's going to be staggering. And here's the thing. This story is being written right now. It's being written right now. We're in the middle of it. We're probably in the beginning of it. And we don't know how it's going to turn out. But I, for one, don't want us on our back foot. I want us to reclaim that narrative. I want us to become the protagonists of our own story at this moment in history. Because if we're not, who is? Who is? This organization, this group of people, it's cold outside, but it's warm in here. It's cold outside, but it is warm in here. And I could walk through all the different things that we're doing on your behalf to ensure that March 14th has a good outcome. And then what comes after that is even more important, because we have to do the work of reconnecting our scientific enterprise with our communities. We have to do that work. And that is long-term work. That doesn't happen with an ad campaign. It doesn't happen with something that you just buy. It is the work of being of our communities. We have to do that work. But I want to do it with you. I want to do it with you. And so you have my commitment to understand that destruction for the ill-conceived notions of cutting costs didn't put an American on the moon, and it didn't wipe smallpox from the face of the earth. Didn't do that. Destruction doesn't do that. Building does that. And so we're going to work together to see that we come out of this and write this story in the way that we want to. I can't promise you that every battle is going to be won. I can't promise you that we won't lose some. What I can promise you is that the legacy that we leave, this generation of scientists and leaders of this enterprise, that we're going to be bequeathing something to the students, and we're going to be collaborators and partners to the rest of the world. I know we have delegations here from around the world, that we will put every ounce of effort into ensuring that this enterprise stays strong, does what is right for the community, and does what is right for our American community. We have to do that. We have to do that. So I want to thank you for being here. I want to thank you for your passion. We're gonna have wonderful discussions about science in the next few days. We're going to have discussions about policy in the next few days. There are going to be people who come and disagree with me in the next few days. That is the power of science. That, the crucible to figure out what is right. And you do it by having a discussion with one another, having a conversation with one another, having disagreements with one another. And we're going to share that. We're going to share that outside this room. So thank you all for being here. Thank you for your passion. Thank you for being members of the AAAS. And may it be another 176 years. Thank you.
Whew. I need a moment. Thank you, Sudha. The development of exceptional multidisciplinary program you will enjoy over the next 3 days has been guided by AAAS President Willie E. May, who will deliver his presidential address shortly. And the truly dedicated annual meeting program committee that works year-round, the two have really put together an awesome program for this meeting. Thanks to Willie and the committee for their excellent work this year. What an exciting program we have. Thank you so much. I'm incredibly excited to be able to introduce this year's AAAS President's Address and the man who will deliver it, my friend, Willie. And I'd like to invite Willie to the podium now. Since 2018, Willie has been the Vice President of Research and Economic Development at Morgan State University. Prior to Morgan State, he served as the U.S. Undersecretary of Commerce and the 15th Director of the National Institute of Standards and Technology, or NIST. As NIST Director, Dr. May provided high-level oversight and direction for NIST, the agency that promotes U.S. innovation and industrial competitiveness by advancing measurement science, standards, and technology. Dr. May led NIST research and measurement service program in chemistry-related areas for more than 20 years. His personal research activities were focused in on areas of trace organic analytical chemistry and physico-chemical properties of organic compounds, where his work is dedicated and described in more than 90 peer-reviewed technical publications. He's a native of Birmingham, Alabama. Dr. May earned his PhD in chemistry from the University of Maryland at College Park. His numerous honors include American Chemical Society Distinguished Service in Advancement of Analytical Chemistry Award, the Department of Commerce Gold, Silver, and Bronze Medal Awards, the Arthur Fleming Award for Outstanding Federal Service, the National Bureau of Standards Equal Employment Opportunity Award, and the National Organization for the Professional Advancement of Black Chemists and Chemical Engineers, i.e. Noverche, Percy Julian, and Henry Hill Awards for outstanding contributions to chemistry. And, of course, he's a AAAS fellow. So please join me in welcoming to the stage Dr. Willie E. May. Willie.
Thank you. Let me get a swig first before I start. Don't know whether I can see better with my glasses on or off. I'll start with them on, but I'll probably take them off. Good afternoon. I'm Willie E. May. E stands for Eugene. And welcome again to this afternoon's kickoff session for what I think will be an enjoyable and substantive meeting for all of us. So, ministers, excellencies, and friends, good evening and welcome to this meeting. I am so excited to chair this year's meeting, and I'm even more thrilled to be a part of this organization, AAAS, given our long-standing and timeless mission to advance science, engineering, and innovation throughout the world, but for the benefit of all, for the benefit of everybody. And I thank our board chair, Joe Francisco, for that very, very generous introduction. And I'd also like to thank incoming President Teresa Maldonado, our leader, Sadiq Parikh, and my fellow board members for their partnership in leading this organization over the past year. And I would be truly remiss if I did not publicly and individually acknowledge the program committee members who worked tirelessly over the past year to organize and present this meeting that you are about to enjoy over the next few days. So I would ask them each to stand up as I call their names, and I hope I don't butcher them too much. Nicole Maylett. Where are you, Nicole? I don't see you, but I assume you're here. Lisa Chong. Karen Emery. Jennifer Frazier. Augustine Fuentes. David Gracias. Ernesto Marinico, Kim Montgomery, Ken Perlin, Enrico Ramirez Ruiz, and last but certainly not least, Denise Didier Russo. And also many things and great props to our many scientific session reviewers, poster judges, session aides, and everyone else who helped to make this year's annual meeting possible. Earlier this week, we announced the winners of our annual awards and prizes. So please join me in congratulating Mary Willie, the President and CEO of Research America, for winning this year's AAAS Philip Haig Abelson Prize. Congratulations are also in order to Daniel Whittle, Valerie Miller, and Eduardo Bonet Morone for the Environmental Defense Fund, from the Environmental Defense Fund, for winning the David and Betty Hamburg Award for Science Diplomacy. Encia Afani, a researcher at the Perimeter Institute of Canada, for winning the AAAS Award for Scientific Freedom and Responsibility. Brian Green, professor and director of the Columbia University Center for Theoretical Physics, for winning the Manny L. Bromick Award for Public Engagement with Science. Barack L. Ahmed, research fellow at the Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health, for winning this year's AAAS Early Career Award for Public Engagement with Science. Juan F. Heredia, former director and principal investigator of the Model Institutions for Excellence Project for the National Science Foundation, for winning the AAAS's Lifetime Mentor Award. And LaShawn Simpson Hendricks, associate professor of the Department of Biomedical Engineering at the University of Cincinnati, for winning this year's AAAS Mentor Award. And last, but certainly not least, the research team behind the paper, Nitrogen-Fixing Organelle in a marine algae, published in Science on April 12th to be exact, 2024, for winning the AAAS Newcomb Cleveland Award. Now, this is the award that recognizes authors of the most outstanding paper published in the research articles or reports section of Science during a given year. We will be celebrating all of these remarkable awardees tomorrow morning at a special breakfast. So can I get another round of applause for all of our winners? Each of them embodies the work that we do at AAAS, work that demonstrates scientific excellence in service to society, work that demonstrates building trust with communities, and the work that we do to expand and demonstrate the benefits of science across our planet. A year ago, we chose the theme for this meeting, Science Shaping Tomorrow, because we, as scientists and engineers, have a responsibility to look to the future and then help determine what needs to be done. Here in the United States, we stand at a very consequential moment. The post-World War II social contract that produced the collaboration between American universities and the federal government is being severely strained. For 70 years, the scientific enterprise has relied on roughly equal contributions from the government and their institutions to provide the environment and climate for research that we do in this country. But over the last couple of decades, the foundation for that contract has been chipped away, and some Americans have lost confidence in the ability of science to serve the public good. And now we have a new administration that is seized upon these stresses, and this transition of government has come with a flurry of executive orders, new cabinet nominees, and a lot of changes and uncertainty that have many of us in this room feeling understandably anxious and uncertain about the future. In fact, many early career scientists are telling us that they are now maybe questioning whether they should continue to pursue careers in STEM. Although some of the early actions of this incoming administration may be, as I said in my recent editorial, unnerving, concerning, and alarming, it is really too early to know how they may be clarified, modified, implemented, or even rescinded. Still, it is undeniable that the rhetoric and chaos that we're hearing are already taking a toll. And we must tend to each other in this moment of concern. It makes sense to be worried. Nevertheless, we can't let these political histrionics distract us from our job to foster a resilient science and technology enterprise over the long term. Part of that means that ensuring that disruptions of the great work that our scientists do are minimized. This change in government offers us a good opportunity to reflect on our responsibilities as scientists, engineers, and technologists, and to support thoughtful investments in science that meet the challenges we face in our global society. But looking closer to home, we have some hefty challenges facing us here in this country, facing us in America. How are we going to respond to disasters like wildfires and hurricanes that are happening at a much more rapid pace than they ever have in the history of this planet? And how are we going to and the teleprompter has stopped. And how are we going to address the next round of epidemic diseases that we all know are coming. It's just a matter of when. And how are we going to reap the benefits of artificial intelligence while being clear-eyed about its potential adverse impacts? Nothing comes for free. If we are to succeed in meeting these challenges, we, the scientific community, have our own business to handle. How can we ensure ethical and transparent scientific collaborations? How can we work through the barriers that attempt to slow progress, distort scientific evidence, and use science in harmful ways? How can we push ourselves to assemble the teams we need to ensure that we can provide health and prosperity within our society through transformational science? And how can we stick to our values of creating an inclusive scientific enterprise with the new constraints that have been placed upon us? It is crystal clear that the times we're living in require us to renew our determination and strengthen and safeguard our work, just as generations have done before. This isn't the first time we've seen this play, folks. This requires both steely determination, but it also requires a winning strategy. Tonight, I'm going to talk about why I think the future of science requires intentional investment over the long term and a strong and adaptable workforce and dedication to scientific responsibility. I'm going to share with you some of the hard work and commitments that AAAS and our members are already doing in these areas, some of which many of you perhaps have heard of, and some I'm sure that most of you have not. We truly appreciate and are grateful to have the support of the AAAS community, our members, our donors, and our partners, many of whom are here with us this evening, who make all of this work that we do possible. I also will share some stories about my own improbable career in science, because my story is a big part of the reason why I have been so proud to serve as president of this amazing organization, and why I'm so proud of the work that we do. I grew up in the projects of Birmingham, Alabama, thinking that I wanted to be a baseball player, like my homeboy and namesake Willie Mays. In fact, my high school baseball coach, Cap Brown, was Willie's best friend. They played on the Birmingham Black Barons together. And when Willie would come to Birmingham in the early 60s, the Giants weren't winning independence then either. So when we would be having fall baseball practice, Willie would come out and watch us, and Cap would say, "Willie, you see that little skinny blank, blank, blank out there in center field? Willie, he's probably faster than you were, but he's got a popsicle arm, and he can't hit the curveball worth blank." Fill in the words. Willie actually gave me one of his uniforms. Now, it was too big for me. At that time, I weighed all of 130 pounds. It was too big for me. But being the little hot dog that I was, I would practice in that top there at Knoxville College. Now, in those days, they didn't have the names on the back of the uniforms, but everyone knew number 24 whose it was. So I was just strutting my stuff and showing it off. Halfway through the season, I went down to move it from the washer to the dryer. It wasn't there. I yelled some words my mother never taught me to say. I was ticked. And it took me about 6 weeks, actually, to get over that and come to the real, Eugene, that's what my family called me. you know, if you really valued that, you wouldn't have brought it here and paraded it and showed off to everyone. So, you know, and that was the first time in my life that I'd actually taken responsibility for my actions. I'd like to think that I have ever since, but that was a lesson learned and something I have never forgotten. Back then, I could not have imagined that I would be standing before you today. A former unanimously confirmed Undersecretary of Commerce for Standards and Technology and Director of NIST, the top chemist in the federal government. I didn't say that, but that was the byline for for the cover article for CNN News in 2014. A former president of the International Committee of Weights and Measures, housed in Paris, France, and now VP for Research and Economic Development at Morgan State, member of the National Science Board, and outgoing president of AAAS. There's no way that that was in the card for me growing up there in the barracks in Birmingham. So I'm telling you young people this because if you are having similar struggles, that does not mean that you one day cannot be standing up giving an address similar to this to an audience similar to this. You keep the faith, and it's going to be us to provide that environment in this country that allows folks like Willie Mae growing up in the projects to be standing here before you tonight. My story exemplifies what happens when we are intentional about investing in science and investing in people. But it could have easily been the story of what happens when we do not show up for science at a critical time. After the Russians launched Sputnik in 1957, it scared the blank out of us as a country, and there was a massive investment in science in this country. In the wake of Sputnik and the end of World War II, the American public's appreciation for science was at its peak. There was a strong national drive to win the global competition for science. I think it's time that we get some of that back. Our past investments in science and technologies have truly transformed this planet. One of the examples that is often shared is the invention of the transistor in 1948. That was cited by many as being the single greatest invention of the 20th century. That one innovation has transformed our economies, advanced human productivity, increased the standard of living, and connected people across this globe. Global sales of microchips last year were over $650 billion. But that is a mere fraction of the actual value of the devices that they go into, such as smartphones that we all have, cars, cameras, TVs, GPS equipment. If you want to look at a more recent example, let's look at the federally funded work on mRNA vaccines that took place in relative obscurity at NIH and a few other labs around the country until they were desperately needed. The early work on the coronavirus protein structures and antibodies made it possible to develop vaccines and therapies against COVID-19 at warp speed in a time of great global need. In 2021, the Golden Goose Award, which recognizes researchers whose seemingly odd or obscure federally funded research has resulted in significant benefits to our society and or our planet was awarded to Doctors Caitlin Carrico and Drew Weissman for their research, which was essential to development of the mRNA therapeutics. AAAS is proud to steward this award in partnership with a steering committee of universities, institutes, and nonprofit organizations. Excuse me. Federal support contributed to every one of the more than 350 drugs that were approved by the US FDA over the last decade, including medications for hypertension. I need that. High cholesterol. I used to need that. Heart disease. I ducked that one. Cancer. I've had that. And an HIV injectable drug that science named Breakthrough of the Year in 2024. There are a number of Sputnik-like moments facing us today, like the recent launch of the Chinese generative AI model, DeepSeek, which is fueling debates here in this country about the next directions of this industry. But an enlightened scientific policy in the U.S. will be one that recognizes that American strength comes not just from a strong enterprise here, but we must have global collaboration that produces better knowledge and talent faster to benefit everyone on this planet. AAAS is leading the charge to meet these moments in ways that advance innovation and ensures that the benefits of that innovation are shared throughout not only the United States, but around the world. We do this with the understanding that based on an awful lot of experience, the best way to meet these moments involves nonpartisan cooperation and investment across all sectors of our economy. At this meeting, we will provide a sneak peek of the vision for American science and technology that Sidhu mentioned earlier. Please join us tomorrow evening at 5:15 for a plenary session on VAST. I am proud and honored to be a member of the task force that contributed to this vision, and this task force is being led by none other than our CEO, Sidhu Parikh, and managed by the Science and Technology Action Committee here in the U.S. This task force includes 70 leaders from across industry, government, and academia, and from every region within this country. Be sure to attend tomorrow's session so that you can hear these recommendations. AAAS R&D budget program, which some of you in this room know about and depend on for valuable insights into federal STEM investment process, was launched in 1976. It shares data analysis and valuable insights on the range of U.S. federal level in research development and in comparison with other countries, and it tracks the U.S. federal budget process. Our data dashboards and reports are regularly cited around the world and covered to create transparency and informed discussions on R&D funding around the world. AAAS has a long history of recognizing and supporting the work of science at the global level, so it's not new to us. We understand that broad scientific collaboration and shared best practices around scientific communication are necessary so that the investments, the ingenuity, and risk-taking of science can benefit all of our society. Through programs like the AAAS Center for Science Diplomacy, we lay the groundwork for information sharing on critical issues such as disease control and prevention and natural disasters. If you want to hear more about how to engage in science diplomacy in this ever-evolving geopolitical landscape, our fearless leader, Sadup, and the Royal Society's Sir Mark Walport, that is, will be engaged in a fireside chat tomorrow at 1 p.m. here in the Heinz Convention Center, room 206. So I hope you can find time in your schedule to check out that chat. They will discuss a new framework that AAAS and the Royal Society will release tomorrow as an update to original New Frontiers in Science Diplomacy framework that was developed almost 15 years ago in 2010. The advancements that follow from our robust investments in science capture the imagination and push the envelope of what we believe can be possible. But we also need to find and support what we call the missing millions. Those are the scientists among us who have not yet joined the scientific enterprise. In fact, they may not know they're scientists. And many of them don't feel that they're invited in to join the enterprise. I was on track to becoming one of those missing millions growing up in the 50s and 60s there in Birmingham, but science was my way out. I had a high school chemistry teacher, Mr. Cook, who took 5 of us aside in the 10th grade, and for the next 3 years, during our study hall, mentored and prepared us for college-level chemistry. In fact, there was nothing that I had for the first 2 to 3 years of college at Knoxville College that I had not been exposed to in high school by Mr. Cook. So obviously, me being the competitor that I was, that made me feel a little cocky, feel that I could, I had never met a practicing chemist. But the tutelage that he gave me the confidence that I could in fact be something that I had never seen. It gave me the confidence that I could do stuff that folks didn't think I could do. And me being the little competitor that I was, I liked proving people wrong, still do. AAAS is leading the effort to find the missing millions through the STEM Opportunity Alliance. SOA is a network of more than 260 partners around the U.S. that will build the capacity of organizations and institutes to add 20 million new STEM workers from every background to the U.S. economy by 2050. At least that's our goal. Morgan State University, where I have the honor of serving as VP for Research and Economic Development, is a key partner in SOA. In fact, 2 years ago, this spring, it was on our campus that the SOA kicked off a year-long national strategic planning process to garner community input from across the nation. This led to SOA releasing a community-developed national strategy last year. By broadening access to STEM education and workforce development in places such as community colleges and HBCUs, like Morgan, SOA will help inspire and engage the vast and underutilized talent pool that we have in this country. SOA will expand opportunities to grow skills and provide resources for the education, training, and innovative programs for people who may not even think of themselves as participants in STEMs, from farmers who use weather data to cultivate their crops, to IT specialists who keep our healthcare tools up and running. In 2020, AAAS and 9 other science and engineering organizations co-authored an analysis to clarify who counts as a STEM professional, by looking at what they do rather than what areas they got formal education in. We found that more than 55% of U.S. STEM professionals do not hold as much as a bachelor's degree. Stay tuned for a new report that will come out in March, a couple of months from now, well, 1 month from now actually, with the latest overarching data on a state-by-state basis. If you want to learn more about SOA and the work we are doing, there will be a meet and greet in the Expo Lounge directly after this talk. I encourage you to attend and learn how you can help us create these pathways for our prosperity. Another way that AAAS is identifying those missing millions is through our SEA Change program, led by my longtime friend and homegirl, Dr. Shirley Malcolm. For those of you who don't know, Shirley, myself, and Freeman Robowski were all in high school at the same time in Birmingham in the 60s. Sea Change provides guidance to colleges and universities on how to build environments where creativity, where innovation, and where talent can flourish, and where people from all backgrounds can contribute to the scientific enterprise. This program now includes sustained membership by more than 20 institutions across the U.S., including Rutgers Health, our first bronze awardee in biomedicine, and UC Davis, the very first institution to be awarded silver status. The organization that has the greatest role in shaping my orientation towards science and leadership was NIST, the National Institute of Standards and Technology, where I spent more than 45 years working at every level of the organization. I joined the organization on July the 6th, 1971, as a one-year temporary. Now, my wife didn't know it was a one-year temporary. Us having one kid and expecting another, I'm not sure I could have convinced her to leave Oak Ridge, Tennessee and come to the National Bureau of Standards on a one-year temporary position, but it worked out. What set NIST apart from other organizations, in my view, was that while NIST was by no means diverse, like Oak Ridge was when I was there, NIST was a scientific meritocracy, a place where a person of color like me was provided the opportunity to prove himself and advanced by the quality and quantity of their ideas, research productivity, grit, perseverance, and programmatic results. These are kinds of opportunities that AAAS seeks to provide through programs like the SOA, Sea Change, and many others that provide chances for the missing millions and folks like Willie Eugene May, almost 55 years ago, to contribute to the advances that will shape tomorrow and provide open mobility and security for themselves and their families, but also improve the international competitiveness of this country. This is essential. This is essential for us in the U.S. As international scientists educated here are increasingly returning home. We in the U.S. can't maintain our global competitiveness without training and nurturing scientists who don't have a home to go back to, who grew up in this country, who are U.S. citizens. That is the only way that we can compete going forward. We must find a way to foster the vast talent that we have in this country, as well as continuing to attract the best and the brightest from around the world and provide a climate here where they feel welcome and they can contribute to our prosperity and seek prosperity for themselves as well. Shirley once said that science will fall short of society's need when opportunities to participate in the scientific enterprise are limited. This important idea is at the heart of much of the work that AAAS has done over the years and will continue to do. We have worked throughout our history to expand educational opportunities, support skills training, and elevate access to science in all communities. But we are now at a critical point when it comes to leveraging the benefits of science to meet global challenges. We can no longer afford to miss those millions. I know that in the current climate, this feels more complicated than ever to accomplish, but we cannot be deterred. It is essential that we continue to find ways to enable anyone who wants to be a part of STEM to participate in the enterprise. We must remain focused on the long game. If we make these critical investments and put these missing millions to work, there are still two key things that we must do to ensure that science can shape tomorrow. We must show the public that we are trustworthy and responsible. We must show that we can meet people no matter where they are and what they believe, and show them that the scientific community is part of, not separate from, their communities. We believe we have an obligation to set the tone, to be the moral compass, and to set values that guide the scientific enterprise. Complicating the landscape of forces at play who unknowingly are spreading misinformation or intentionally spreading disinformation, alternative facts. One of the best examples for standing up for science and research integrity that I can share with you is the testimony by Science Editor-in-Chief Holden Thorpe, the testimony that he delivered last year before the U.S. House Select Committee on the coronavirus pandemic. As you likely know, AAAS is the nonprofit publisher of the science family of journals. Holden had the stage all to himself, actually, because the subcommittee had also invited representatives from Nature and Lancet, but they didn't show. So Holden had the opportunity to have the floor to himself, and he enjoyed every minute of it. Holden offered a detailed look at how the peer review process works for the science family of journals and how the journal Science has worked to provide a forum for different views on the pandemic's origins. Afterwards, after being grilled for over an hour, he received a special thank you note from the staff director of the committee, chairman, who said that the committee appreciated how much they learned, not only about the scientific peer review process itself and scientific publication and so forth. So Holden, being the true academic, took him to school. Clear communication and accountability. That is how science shapes tomorrow. The science family of journals is cultivating an ethical research culture and a commitment to science and scientific integrity that leads the industry, best in class. In an era where data and citation manipulation is on the rise, our journals have adopted AI-powered tools such as Proofic, which detects image integrity issues. The Science Journal has also, the Science family has also partnered with the nonprofit Dryad Data Repository to make peer review of databases easier. As we see a rise in retractions, our journals have been praised for our commitment to correction is courageous. Pursuing open data policies that encourage the review of results and working with authors to swiftly retract papers when necessary. As far as the focus on real-world problems, there are almost too many examples across our programs to talk about here tonight, but let me share with you how AAAS has become a leader in informing the responsible use of artificial intelligence as an example. In 2023, as interest in generative AI was taking off, the AAAS Science and Technology Policy Fellowship Program took just 2 months to identify and send 6 fellows to Washington, D.C. to support congressional leaders as they wrote bipartisan legislation to address AI policies in healthcare, finance, and national security. The expertise of these fellows was so highly prized that the cohort was expanded the next year in 2024. They were not alone in offering expertise and education on this important topic. The AAAS Epicenter has a popular program on responsible AI use by state and local governments that helps those decision makers navigate using this new technology for public services like supplemental security income and Medicaid, and criminal justice decisions around bail and probation. We also bear responsibility in a way that's very personal to me, because as I alluded to earlier, the probability of being here standing before you tonight, growing up when and where I did, has to be less than 1 in a million. I came to understand my responsibility after a dream I had about my mother in 2018. After leaving NIST, I had gone back to my alma mater, College Park, and they created a nice title for me. But one of my main responsibilities was entertaining high rollers at football games and basketball games. I was enjoying the hell out of that, folks. And almost 10 years to my mother's death, before that, I would go home every 6 weeks when I was at NIST to visit Mama, and I would tell her about all the things we're doing, our 5 Nobel Prize winners, all the 50 countries that I visited that we didn't know existed growing up there in the barracks. And she would say, Eugene, Mama's so proud of you, son. But Eugene, don't you know any colored folks? Mama, you know I know some black folks, blah, blah, blah. And she would just shake her head and walk away, but clearly with pride. Well, after I had gone to to Maryland, and I was, doing this thing, entertaining high rollers and so forth. I have a dream. And Mama's not smiling this time. And she says, Eugene, what are you going to do to repay all of those people who made so many sacrifices to put you in a position to come here to do that stuff you like to brag to me about when you come here? I wake up the next morning in a cold sweat. I can't do this anymore. I go to work at College Park and decide that I'm going to leave at 3 o'clock and go back to my office at NIST. I still got my office there, although they're kicking me out now. So I am on Route 200, driving from College Park to NIST to, I've been reached out to for a few HBCUs about their presidency. And at that point, I don't want to be president of anything. Certainly not an HBCU at that point, because I didn't know that much about them. I knew they all needed money, and I didn't want to do that for the rest of my career. But I had some numbers to call, so I was going to go back to NIST to make some phone calls to get Mama off my back. And as I'm on, for those in the DC area know about this, I'm on Route 200, driving back to NIST, and out of the clear blue, and I don't have my phone here with me, I get a call from David Wilson, the president of Morgan State University. Now, the amazing thing was I answered the phone call because I don't answer my cell phone if I don't know who's calling. And he says, Dr. May, this is David Wilson, and he went on to tell me that Vic McCrary was leaving, going to the University of Tennessee, and he could think of no better person to come and lead the research enterprise there at Morgan, blah, 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 and he had sights on having us take aim at becoming a Tier 1 research university, and I knew he was blowing smoke up my butt, but the fact that he called me the night after I'd had that dream, when I'm reaching out to an HBCU. I'd never been on Morgan's campus, but I'd been there once, many years before. So I get on to NIST, hang out with the scientists like I did during my career there. Didn't call any schools, and I felt that, if this was my destiny, this is what I should be doing. So for 45 years, I had a 10-minute commute to work. I moved around Gaithersburg, never more than 10 minutes away. So a 10-minute commute each way. Now I have an hour and a half each way. So when I started doing this first, I was, Mama, you sure want me to do this blank, blank, blank. But I am sure that I'm where I'm supposed to be. So at this meeting, we will talk a lot about research, our roles, our responsibilities within the scientific community and science at large. I'm looking forward to joining you throughout the next few days to hear all about that. I want to close tonight by asking you a few questions. Are you where you need to be so that science can shape tomorrow? Are you showing up for science at this critical moment? Are you doing all you can to create a better future by supporting thoughtful investments, strategic support for the scientific workforce, and a commitment to scientific integrity and responsibility? Do you have the energy, optimism, and focus that are needed to bring this future into view? It would be reasonable to think that these challenges are so daunting that there's little you can do. I get that. But I hope that you'll agree with me that together there's much that we can do. Here are some of my ideas. Talk to the leadership of your institutions who represent you at the federal level and let them know what your priorities are when it comes to strengthening and protecting the scientific enterprise. If they are silent, press them to engage despite the challenges. There are ways to speak out on behalf of science in a responsible way. But you can help by setting aside your understandable differences with the institutions to support them as they do the hard work in Washington and the public sphere. It's now a time for unity. I know it's hard, but stay tuned into the news so that you are well informed about the policy changes that affect your work and your work class on, excuse me, and they are coming at a dizzying speed. The people you will be working with will be reacting to this news, and you can help to provide interpretation and a path for optimism that is. Continue to mentor and encourage students and early career scientists and engineers in your life. You may hear from them that they are discouraged at this time, and that is certainly understandable. But tell them that it makes sense to be anxious. But we've seen this play before. We've been through this a number of times and come out better for it on the other side. So let's tell them to hang in there. And we have to convince ourselves before we can convince them. Remind them that they are a big part of what excites us about the work we do at AAAS and at universities like mine. I wake up each morning eager to help others. That's why I went to Morgan. I want to help young people as they strive to understand nature and create a better world. Please lend your support by keeping your AAAS memberships current and staying involved in our activities, telling your friends to join, or by making a personal contribution. These efforts will help AAAS continue to be uniquely positioned to lead and respond to opportunities and ward off the unexpected risk and obstacles that come our way. For going on 2 centuries now, our association has dedicated itself to the people and principles that create the knowledge and advances that have driven the world to greater equity and prosperity. That journey has not been a straight line. There have been dark times and unexpected moments during that timeline. But the creativity and determination of the scientific enterprise has always been a source of hope and accomplishments. And I'm sure we will thrive again because of all of you. Thanks again for listening. And thank you for all you do and your tireless efforts to share the truth. Thank you for being with us here in Boston. And most of all, enjoy your time while you're here at this year's conference. Thank you.
All right, everybody, just a few more minutes before we go to a wonderful reception. But I have to tell you something. What I have to tell you is that we talked about living in turbulent times. We talked about the fact that other shoes are going to drop even tonight and tomorrow. But here's what I would tell you, that we also live in a world where Willie May and Freeman Hrabowski and Shirley Malcolm were in high school in 1960s Birmingham, Alabama. Now, Willie didn't say the bad part of that, because he never does. He never does. It created people with optimism and a fight in their hearts to make the world a better place. Think of that. 1950s and 1960s Alabama created Willie May. We also live in a world where an organization like AAAS was created in 1848, before the Civil War. And in that time, it has had moments of extraordinary accomplishment and moments to be ashamed of. Both those things are true. But through a course of evolution and revolution, it's become the organization that it is today. And science and engineering have also evolved over that time. And so I'm going to ask you something. What eradicated smallpox? Science and engineering did. What put a person on the moon? Science and engineering did. What cured sickle cell anemia? Science and engineering did. What built a prototype of a supersonic airplane for passengers? Come on. Science and engineering did. Come on now, call and response, y'all. Call and response requires a response. We're going to have drinks in a nice expo hall here in a second, but I need you to give me a little call and response. What grows food for 7 billion people? There you go. What lifts billions out of extreme poverty? What analyzes the atmospheres of planets and other solar systems? What ensures that a child that grows up today lives a longer, healthy, and more prosperous life? What's going to ensure that those students are able to heal the sick? What's going to ensure that you inspire a better future? Look, our scientific inheritance is just way too grand. Our scientific enterprise is too powerful, and a better future is just too close to let it slip away, even in a time like this. So I'm going to remind you of something that a former AAAS president said, and then I'm going to let you go. Former President Margaret Mead has a quote that I love. I've loved it since before I ever was associated with AAAS. She said, "You should never underestimate the ability of a small group of people to change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has." Well, I go all over the world, and I'm in rooms all over the world, and I see small groups of people that change the world. And I know that this is a small group of people that's going to change the world. So let's go out there, let's go enjoy the expo hall. Apparently it's that way, and enjoy the conference. Thank you.